In Arizona gave Adelita Grijalva a decisive win in the special election for a House seat previously held by her late father, Representative Raul Grijalva. In a social media post, Grijalva thanked her supporters in Arizona's 7th congressional district, writing, quote, "Now let's get to work."
So this what just happened, guys? Republicans just lost a special election for a House seat that every analyst had written off as safe, solid red, and locked in a full-blown stunner. With Trump in his second term and the GOP supposedly riding a wave of momentum, the defeat has Washington buzzing and the party scrambling behind closed doors. Let me paint the scene for you because the context matters here. The Republican Party is supposed to be at the peak of its power. They've got the presidency locked down. They've been pushing their agenda hard. Culture war battles are raging at full volume. Trump is out there holding rallies, firing up the base, doing what he does best. On paper, everything looks rock solid. The machine is humming. The money is flowing. The endorsements are landing.
The Associated Press and Decision Desk called this election for Democrat Adelita Grijalva within 10 minutes of the first results posting. The outcome of this special election to replace the late Raul Grijalva was never in doubt. Arizona has 2 congressional districts that can reliably swing between Republicans and Democrats, and Arizona's Congressional District 7 is not one of them. Democrats have a massive voter registration lead in this border district that stretches from Yuma to Tucson and a very blue voting history to match.
So, when this special election came up, nobody in GOP leadership lost a second of sleep. This district, this seat, it was theirs. Had been for years. The demographics favored them. The history favored them. The national environment with a Republican in the White House should have sealed the deal. They rolled out the standard playbook. Trump endorsement, check. Big rally in the district, check. Attack ads painting the Democrat as a radical, check. All the usual ingredients that have worked before.
In southern Arizona, the race for Arizona's 7th congressional district, a special election for the seat vacated by the death of longtime Congressman Raul Grijalva back in March. And it will remain a seat held by a Grijalva. Decision Desk, HQ, and the Associated Press calling the race tonight for Adelita Grijalva moments after the first results started coming in. You see the updated numbers. Grijalva, the Democrat, at 70% of the vote, just over 58,000 votes.
And then the votes came in and the bottom fell out. Now, you might be tempted to shrug this off. One seat, who cares, right? Elections happen. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But that would be a mistake, a catastrophic mistake if you're trying to understand what's really happening beneath the surface. Because this isn't just about one congressional district flipping from red to blue. This is about what that flip represents. This is a warning sign, a massive flashing neon bright warning sign that the Republican strategy is fundamentally broken when Trump's name isn't on the ballot.
While this victory wasn't necessarily an unexpected outcome, considering this is a very deep blue congressional district in Arizona, this does now shift the scales on the balance of power here in the House of Representatives. That count is now 219 for Republicans, and it will be 214 once Grijalva is sworn in for Democrats.
And the implications for the upcoming midterms, they are absolutely staggering. We're talking about a potential bloodbath if things continue on this trajectory. The kind of political disaster that leaves careers shattered and majorities overturned. The GOP insiders know it. That's why they're freaking out right now. That's why you're hearing carefully worded statements and seeing emergency strategy meetings being called. They saw what happened. They understand the math. And the math is terrifying. Here's what makes this loss so devastating and so revealing.
So here's why. It's a majority-minority district. And while minorities did shift more Republican this last election across the board, they still largely support Democrats by pretty large margins. Hispanics make up 60% of the population here, compared that to the white population of under 30%. And while in the single digits, District 7 also has the second largest share of Native American voters in the state, and that's largely due to the Tohono O'odham Nation.
For years, the Republican Party has bet everything on one simple idea, Trump's coattails. The belief that the former president's magical political powers would lift every candidate on the ballot, that his endorsement would guarantee turnout, that his voters would show up for anyone he anointed. That idea worked in the last presidential election. Trump won. The party celebrated. But this special election just proved that those coattails have a very limited reach.
in the raw total, with her Republican challenger, Daniel Gutierrez, coming in with 27.7% of the vote, about 35,000 plus votes behind Adelita Grijalva. Gutierrez ran for the same seat against Raul Grijalva last November, losing the race by 26 points. Grijalva has been a member of the House of Representatives since 2002.
Because when Trump isn't the one running, when his name isn't literally on the ballot, those low-propensity voters, the ones who only crawl out of the woodwork for him, they stay home. They don't care about some House race in a district they've never visited. They're Trump voters, not Republican voters. And that distinction, which sounds like political science jargon, is actually the difference between winning and losing control of Congress. Meanwhile, on the other side of the aisle, Democrats are celebrating like they just won the lottery. And honestly, they kind of did, because they just proved something that every strategist in both parties is going to be studying for months. Anger beats hype.
What that means in the short term is some of the bipartisan and at odds controversial legislation could potentially move forward, considering the fact that there are a few Republican defectors in Thomas Massie of Kentucky, Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia, looking to force a vote on releasing the so-called Epstein files. With this, they could have enough votes to do so, Errol.
Raw, grassroots, genuine fury from motivated voters beats big rallies and big endorsements every single time. You don't need the most money or the biggest celebrities or the flashiest ads if you've got voters who are genuinely fired up and ready to make their voices heard. And right now,
well, President Trump looked at what he called the demands that Democrats are looking to bring to the table in these negotiations and says that they're just off the table. It's non-starters, which is why he, in a Truth Social post, as you can see on the screen now, decided that he will not move forward with these talks. Democrats are obviously saying that this is a slap in the face to any type of bipartisan negotiations.
Democratic voters are fired up. They're angry about the government shutdown drama that's been dominating headlines. They're angry about the constant infighting within the Republican caucus. They're angry about the chaos and dysfunction that has become the defining feature of Washington since Trump returned to office. And they're channeling all of that anger into one thing: votes. So what actually happened in this special election? Let me walk you through it. Because the surface level story, Republican loses, Democrat wins, doesn't even begin to capture the drama. Republicans thought they had this locked down tight. They had the Trump endorsement. They had the culture war messaging that has worked so well in the past. They had attack ads that painted the Democratic candidate as out of touch and radical. They did everything right according to the playbook that won them the presidency. And it didn't work. Voters looked at the chaos coming out of Washington, the shutdowns, the infighting, the sense that Republicans couldn't govern even when they had all the power, and they said no. They said, we're done with this. They said, we want something different. Democrats swooped in with a different message entirely. They didn't talk about culture war. They didn't talk about the things that fire up the conservative base. They talked about kitchen table issues, grocery prices, healthcare costs, whether Congress can actually function without shutting down every few weeks. They hammered Republicans for dysfunction. They ran ads showing the chaos and asking voters if they wanted more of it. And the voters answered with a resounding no. This is the moment that Republican strategists have been dreading. Because if this can happen in a district they should have held easily, what happens when dozens of House seats are up for grabs in a general election? What happens when Trump's not on the ballot anywhere and his voters stay home across the country? The implications are staggering. Republicans need to flip a certain number of Democratic seats to take back the House. And they just lost a seat they already had. The math is getting harder, not easier. The hole is getting deeper. And the energy, the momentum, the raw enthusiasm that decides elections, it's all on the Democratic side right now. You can feel it shifting in real time. GOP leadership can feel it too. That's why the panic is so real. They know they're in trouble and they don't have an easy solution. Let me tell you something important that the mainstream coverage is missing. Special elections are not just random political events. They are stress tests. They are early warning systems. They show you exactly who is motivated, who is angry, who is willing to drag themselves to the polls on a random Tuesday when there's no presidential race to drive turnout. And right now, that stress test is coming back with results that should terrify the Republican Party, because the energy that raw, unpredictable fuel that powers political upsets, it's all on the Democratic side. Republicans thought they had the intensity advantage. They thought their voters were just as fired up as they were in the last presidential election. But this special election proved otherwise. When Trump isn't the one running, when his name isn't staring at them from the top of the ballot, his voters don't show up with the same urgency. They go back to their lives. They forget about politics until the next Trump rally. And that is a massive, massive problem for a party that has built its entire modern strategy around one man. Think about what J.D. advanced. The vice president himself said not long ago. He warned Republicans about this exact scenario. He said out loud in public that Trump supporters are low-propensity voters. He said they show up for Trump when he's the candidate, but when Trump's not on the ballot, they disappear. He said this could be a huge challenge in the upcoming midterms if the party didn't figure something out. And guess what? He was absolutely right. His warning is playing out in real time exactly as he predicted, and nobody listened carefully enough. Now the party is paying the price because this special election loss isn't an isolated incident. It's part of a pattern. Democrats have been outperforming expectations in special elections across the country, not just winning close races, but dominating in ways that shock political observers. They've been beating their previous numbers by significant margins. And if you remember what happened after the last time a Republican won the White House, you know exactly where this is heading. Let's rewind for a moment. After Trump won the first time, Democrats were furious. They were energized like never before. They channeled that anger into special elections all across America. Every race became a referendum on Trump and his policies. Every contest became personal, and they started winning. Small races at first, then bigger ones. The momentum built like a snowball rolling downhill, and then the midterms hit, and Democrats took the House in a landslide that reshaped American politics. They spent the next 2 years investigating Trump, blocking his agenda, and making his life miserable. Now, fast forward to the present. Trump is back in office for his second term, and Democrats are doing it again. Same playbook, same energy level, same organizational structure, same anger-driving turnout, same results at the ballot box. It's like watching a movie you've seen before, except this time, the Republican Party seems powerless to change the ending. They're running the same tactics that worked in the presidential race, and those tactics are failing spectacularly in these off-year contests. Here's where the story gets really interesting, where it takes a turn that should worry every Republican strategist from coast to coast. The GOP insiders, the high-paid consultants, the people who actually run campaigns, they saw this coming. J.D. Vance literally warned them. Other voices inside the party raised concerns, but the machine kept rolling anyway because nobody knew how to pivot. The party has tied itself so completely to Trump that they can't moderate their message. They can't reach out to moderates without angering the base. They're stuck, and Democrats know it. That's why they're so confident going into the next election cycle. They figured out the winning formula. Motivate your base with anger. Appeal to moderates with practical issues. Let Republicans look chaotic and dysfunctional, then win. It's actually kind of brilliant from a pure strategy standpoint, and right now, Republicans are doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. Trump endorsement, check. Culture war ads, check. Big rally speeches, check. And it's not working in these off-cycle races, but they keep doing it anyway because they don't know what else to do. The government shutdown drama made everything worse. Republicans shut down the government over internal disputes. Voters watched the chaos unfold on their screens. They saw lawmakers fighting with each other instead of governing. They saw dysfunction rising to the level of a national crisis, and they got fed up. Democrats ran ads hammering Republicans for that shutdown. Look at this mess, they said. Look at this dysfunction. You want more of this? And voters responded with a clear and unmistakable message. No, we're done. We're not voting for more chaos. That message was heard loud and clear in this special election. It's going to be heard in every election between now and the midterms. And unless something fundamental changes, it's going to be heard loudest of all when voters head to the polls in November. Let's talk about what this means for Trump specifically, because he's watching this closely. You know, Trump won decisively in the last presidential election. Big win, historic win. Some said he's sitting in the White House. His party controls the levers of power. Everything should be going great for Republicans, but instead, they're losing special elections. His endorsements aren't delivering wins. His strategy isn't working for other candidates. That's got to sting. That's got to make him question whether his political magic still works the way it used to. And the thing is, Trump is going to keep doing what he does. He's going to keep holding rallies. He's going to keep giving endorsements. He's going to keep firing up the base because that's who he is. That's what got him to the White House. But if those endorsed candidates keep losing, if the midterms turn into a Democratic wave, that's on him, at least partially. The GOP tied itself completely to Trump. They made him the center of everything. And now, when he can't deliver wins for down-ballot candidates, they're stuck. They can't abandon him because the base loves him. But they can't win with him either, at least not in these off-year races. It's a nightmare scenario for Republican strategists. And this special election just exposed the problem for everyone to see. The Democratic turnout advantage is real. It's not a fluke. It's not a one-time thing. Democrats are showing up to vote in numbers that Republicans cannot match right now. Their voters are motivated. They're angry about the shutdowns. They're angry about the dysfunction, and they're using that anger as fuel. Republicans, meanwhile, are watching their voters stay home. The Trump base went crazy for him in the presidential election, but they're sitting out these special elections because Trump's not on the ballot personally. Without Trump to vote for directly, they just don't care as much. This is huge because it means the GOP cannot rely on the same coalition that won them the White House. Those voters are not transferable to other candidates. They're Trump voters, not Republican voters. There's a fundamental difference there, and that difference is going to matter massively when the midterms roll around. Democrats have the turnout advantage right now clear as day, and that advantage is only going to grow if Republicans can't figure out how to motivate their own base without Trump's name at the top of the ticket. Now let's talk about why the Republican strategy is failing so badly in these off-year races, because understanding the why is the only way to understand what comes next. The GOP has been running the same playbook for years. Get Trump's endorsement. Run culture war ads that fire up the conservative base. Hold big rallies with lots of energy. Attack Democrats as radicals who want to destroy the country. In the presidential election, when Trump himself was the candidate, that playbook worked beautifully. His voters showed up in droves. They braved long lines and bad weather and everything else because they wanted to vote for him specifically. But special elections are different. Midterms are different. When Trump's name isn't on the ballot, you can't just run a Trump-style campaign and expect the same results. You need to appeal to moderates. You need to convince independents. You need to give voters a reason to care about a race that doesn't have the former president's name attached to it. And right now, Republicans aren't doing that. They're stuck in a rut. They're repeating the same tactics over and over and getting worse results every time. The culture war messaging that works so well with the base falls flat with everyone else. Moderates and independents, the voters who decide most elections, they're not as fired up about those issues. They're looking at their grocery bills. They're looking at their health care costs. They're looking at whether Congress can actually function without shutting down every few weeks. And when they see Republicans focused on culture war battles while the government grinds to a halt, they draw a very simple conclusion. This party can't govern. Democrats, on the other hand, have figured out exactly what to say to those voters. They're running on kitchen table issues, health care, jobs, stable government, lower costs. They're hammering Republicans for the dysfunction and chaos. And it's working. It's working so well that they just flipped a seat that should have stayed red. That's the vulnerability Democrats have identified. Republicans have tied themselves so closely to Trump that they can't pivot. They can't moderate their message without upsetting the base. They're trapped. And Democrats are going to keep exploiting that trap in every single election between now and the midterms. So what do Republicans do? How do they fix this before it's too late? That's the million-dollar question. And honestly, there might not be a good answer. To win over moderates, they need to soften their message significantly. They need to talk about issues that matter to regular families instead of culture war battles. They need to show that they can govern without chaos and dysfunction. But all of that would upset the base. The Trump voters who only show up for him would see any moderation as betrayal. Trump himself wouldn't like it. He'd probably attack anyone who tried to pivot away from his style of politics. So, Republicans are trapped between two impossible choices: abandon the base and lose their most enthusiastic supporters, or stick with the current strategy and keep losing special elections. Neither option is good. Neither option leads to victory in the midterms. And the clock is ticking. The math problem facing Republicans is brutal. Let me lay it out for you. They need to flip a certain number of Democratic seats to take back control of the House. That number was already challenging, but now they just lost a seat they already held. So, the hole just got deeper. They need even more flips just to get back to where they started. Meanwhile, Democrats are outperforming expectations everywhere. Special elections across the country, fundraising numbers, volunteer signups. Every metric points to Democratic momentum. Republicans are dealing with constant infighting, shutdown drama, and a base that only shows up when Trump is personally running. And Trump won't be on the ballot in the midterms anywhere. So what happens if this special election is any indication? Democrats are going to have a very good night when the midterms arrive. They could expand their majority significantly. They could pick up seats in districts that should be competitive or even Republican-leaning. And that's terrifying for the GOP because control of Congress isn't just symbolic. That's real power. That's how you pass legislation. That's how you block the other party's agenda. If Democrats keep the House or even expand their majority, Trump's second term gets exponentially harder. He can't pass his priorities. He's stuck dealing with Democratic investigations. His entire agenda stalls out. The second term that was supposed to be about achievement becomes about gridlock and survival. Let's talk about what this means for the average voter who's been watching all of this unfold, because at the end of the day, the political drama is just noise. What matters is whether your government works, whether the people you elect actually do something about the issues that keep you up at night. And right now, voters are sending a very clear message. They're tired of the chaos. They're tired of the dysfunction. They want stability. They want leaders who can govern. And in this special election, they decided that Democrats were more likely to give them that than Republicans. That's a devastating indictment of the GOP's performance in months into Trump's second term. The party in power is supposed to have an advantage. They're supposed to be able to point to accomplishments and convince voters to give them more time. But Republicans can't point to accomplishments right now. They can point to shutdowns and infighting and culture war battles that don't put food on the table. And voters have noticed. The warning signs are all flashing red. Republican strategists are running the numbers over and over, hoping to find some silver lining that just isn't there. The energy is all wrong. The momentum is all wrong. And the panic among GOP leadership is very, very real. You can hear it in their carefully worded statements. You can see it in their emergency strategy meetings. They know they're in trouble, and they don't have an easy solution. They can't just snap their fingers and make Trump voters care about special elections. They can't manufacture genuine enthusiasm when their party is fighting itself internally and voters are genuinely mad about government shutdowns. They can't fake the kind of energy that Democrats are showing right now. So what do? They keep doing what they've been doing probably because they don't know what else to do, and they hope that something changes before the midterms. But hope is not a strategy. And right now, hope is all Republicans have left. Here's where I land on all of this. Republicans lost a race they absolutely should have won. Democratic voters are fired up and showing up. The GOP strategy is failing in off-year races, and the midterms are coming fast. This is the story you need to understand. Trump is in the White House, but his party is in serious trouble, big trouble. And unless something fundamental changes, unless Republicans figure out how to win without Trump on the ballot, the midterms could be a complete disaster. The kind of disaster that reshapes Washington and leaves the GOP wondering what went wrong. Keep your eyes on the special elections happening between now and then. Keep watching the trends. Every single race is building towards something larger. And right now, it's building toward a Democratic wave that could wash away Republican hopes for the rest of Trump's second term. The real fight, the one that decides control of Congress and shapes the rest of this presidency, that's coming. And if this loss is any indication of what's ahead, Republicans are in serious, serious trouble. The warning signs are all flashing red. Time is running out to course correct before it's too late. The entire landscape is shifting beneath their feet, and they're struggling to find solid ground.